I can remember this water wheel in pieces going past our house about 1972 when it was retrieved from Zulu Creek by the then Lions Club, as I understand it. The water wheel was originally installed in Zulu Creek, further up the creek from the site that it was removed from. It was on a site for the Native Youth Mining Company, to which John Carmody was part of in the 1930s. I believe a fellow by the name of McDonald, tied up with the South Melbourne Football Club, instigated some money to have it shifted further down Zulu Creek onto the just-in-time mine, and a chap by the name of Bill Toman and Ross Stevens accomplished that. And then when it was assembled and put together, Bill and his wife, and I think it was 2 children, lived in there for several years. Bill was a tool maker by trade, and he actually repaired all the broken cogs and things. But the wheel was originally, as I said, further up the creek as a 30-foot overshot wheel. When it was reinstalled further down Zulu Creek on the just-in-time, it was actually a breastfed wheel, which meant that the water came in at 9 o'clock and ran backwards. It wasn't as strong a horsepower, so therefore it was only a 5-head battery on its second site instead of a 10-head battery, which was what was on its original site on the Native Youth. Basically, the water wheel is your motion of power, which drives through a camshaft with lobes on it, and it lifts a massive great piece of steel, about 800 or 900 pounds, and then the cam just drops it. So it just crushes the ore, the rock, into powder, which has got water in a big battery box, and there's a slurry in there, and that gets crushed to, it's very fine slurry, and when the slurry's small enough, the particles are small enough to run out through this gauze, it runs then over the amalgam plates and is collected off that at a later period. And then in latter technology, they went from the amalgam plates to the Wilfrey table, which is a concentrator, which gave you a concentrate, which then you would put in the cyanide vat, which in the cyanide was a flotation with an impeller. So it dissolved the gold out of the sand that the battery had crushed, and then they had to turn it from solution back into gold. The old early stuff we haven't got a lot on, which is the 1883 to 1895 period, but when it was reassembled on Zulu Creek, it ran from approximately 1931 or 32 right through until at least 1930, and then it became idle. Things had improved, the Depression was over, and people found easier places to work. The Lions Club and the Historical Society was getting ready for the 1972 centenary, and they actually purchased it, as far as I know. They went in there as a working bee, and they brought it out. As I say, I can remember it still coming past the house. They actually blew up a Chev Blitz removing it, and I can still remember it getting towed out. And then they brought it in here onto the flat here where the gardens are. It would have been burned in the 2019 fires, but thankfully it survived the 39 fires, and it was removed in the 70s, so therefore we've got a piece of history that hasn't been completely destroyed. the 1883 site, it was a boom time in the 80s and into the 90s, and that petered off into literally nothing with the First World War, and then you had the Great Depression. For the Shire, it was the last in that part. It was a part of the Depression recovery, I suppose. It created employment. It was a difficult time, as we can read. It wasn't a grand scale mine, but it paid its way. It's not just a water wheel with a battery stuck along it, it's living actual history.